God bless you on this scope. I wanted to share something that I just feel. I want to talk to you what no one ever wants to hear about, no one ever wants to talk about, a great falling away. I believe, in the early 90s, Bishop Patterson used me as his director of transportation. So any prominent speaker or any prominent doing the Soul Winners conferences or any big name speaker that he brought in and he dropped off at the air, they came in at the airport. 90% of the time I was the one that I picked them up. Some that were my ecclesiastical idols, and some, I got extremely disappointed, because they seem so great from far. But when you ride in the car with them, when you see the habits of some, when you see that some don't even love people, that they're strictly about the buck, that they're so aloof, it's disheartening. I had influence in the automobile industry because I spent 20 years in it. And my name was exceptionally good. You're good in the car business in that day or age. You can go on any lot, man, I need this car and that car, and they'll be back on blah, blah, blah. And strictly on your name strength and your reputation. They knew you weren't going to run away. You could do it. So I went to a Cadillac dealer, and I told him I needed, I think I got about 15 Cadillacs for the week of Soul Winners Conference. And I said, they'll be driven. You'll get good publicity from it. So they went for it. And so I'm the man that got them. And then I'd see people that, we had different evangelists that want to get to the point where they don't want anyone to ride in the car but them. Now, someone giving you something freely and you don't want to ride. I had one female evangelist that was very popular in Kojic circles of old. Very popular, the standard bearer at that time. And I actually had a limo for her to pick her up from the Peabody Hotel in Memphis to ride to Temple of Deliverance. Less than a 3-minute ride. 3 minutes, gotta be. And she was sitting up front, and there's a big old limo. 2 women that were there for the conference had missed the bus that we were running back and forth from the Peabody to the church. The church service was about to start. I'm picking up the nightly speaker, and I asked for their benefit. Can she ride? Can they ride with her? She said, no, this limo is for me. Folks, where are our hearts at? What happens with stuff like that? I had another prominent pastor now in Kojic circles that he couldn't ride from the Peabody Hotel in a brand new passport that had less than 100 miles on it, that was extremely clean, to Temple of Deliverance. Look, folks, we wonder why the beauty shop and barbershop crowd talks about the church. Now, they're notoriously hard on the church, sometimes very unfairly. But look, folks, the beauty and barbershop crowd's been talking lately, and they've been telling the truth. There's been a great falling away. Bishop Patterson, I was so blessed to be in favor for a good season with him, that me and a select inner circle, that we could always push, we pushed them to bring this big name speaker in, because we were a mega church, and you want to hear certain people. And Bishop said, I'm going to bring them, but you all will see when I bring them. And many times we did see. We saw people that had the big names, but they didn't have big hearts. They treated people horribly, difficult. Now, when you're dealing with volunteers, how are you going to come and blast a volunteer out that's doing this freely, that's taking time out? Even when I drove for Bishop Patterson, I never charged him. I did everything, basically, many times out of my own pocket. It was part of ministry. It was growth. It was good to see that this speaker, even as a young preacher, that this speaker who the world idolizes or the world sees as so great and potent is still just a man. I picked up one speaker, and I won't even mention where he's from or anything else about him, that he's one of the most articulate preachers on the circuit. But he has another handicap that he can hide behind that people won't see. And it's enamoring that God can call any and all. It helped me in the sense that I saw that even with all of my faults and even with all of my shortcomings, that God can use anyone. So I picked them up many times just for the experience, for the ministry, and to help my pastor. But I have been, so many I picked up where, look, folks, when you are charging, you getting paid 5 figures, and Bishop Patterson paid very well. And I've taken preachers from Temple Deliverance, and before we get back to the Peabody, they're on the phone talking bad about my spiritual leader. I don't care. I may have flunked adjutant and armor bearer school, but if you talk about my leader and I'm riding in the car with you and I know he just paid you, I'm going back to tell him. You'd be enamored by some of those preachers of LA. I've ridden in the car with more than one preachers from LA, and the car talk, you'd be amazed with. Look, folks, there's a great falling away. When the black church in our community used to be the standard bearer, out of the black church came many of our great thinkers. Out of the black church came hospitals in that day. Now, in that day, most of the black colleges rose up out of the black church. We're supposed to be the standard bearer. But now, everyone's building their profiles. Everyone's trying to position their brand right. We're more concerned about brands and profiles and followings than we are about the people of God. Preacher, female or male, it ain't about you. It's about them. It's about the sheep. And are we pleasers of men, or are we going to be pleasers of God? Nobody has a problem preaching a word that's in season. You'll hear 1,000 messages that are hot on the same subject when it's in season, but who's bold enough to preach that word when it's out of season? No one wants to take the hard stances. No one wants to preach about this lightly regarded thing that once was called sin. No one wants to do it. If you go to the Lord, by experience, by my vocabulary, by my education, and by how much time I've studied God, I know I'm a decent preacher. But will a lot of people use me? No, because they want you to tailor-made. When you go to their church, they want you to kiss the truth. That's one thing. You don't need to ride in the pastor's seat and touch every tough issue, but you're not going to direct and produce what I speak. I'd rather not come. Look, folks, if you got to tailor my message and tell me what you want, God, look, we're living in such trying times now. That's why you see people start to shun the black church. That's why you see large multicultural churches that are led by white leaders starting to catch some of the talented tenth in the African American community. Folks, look, we can't be an 8-track church in an MP3 world. We can't do that. We're going to have to come of age. But we still got to be, still needs to be a standard. There still needs to be, I believe, in 2015, and I may be by myself, that holiness is still right. When I was in the world, I ran after the world 175%. I didn't even do it 100. I found another 75. So when you're in the things of God, are you going to be hot or cold? Are you going to take a stance? We're living in the Laodicean age. I never want the day to come where someone looks and say, how much is that preacher in the window? The one with the big eyes and the bald head. Look, folks, the gift of God shouldn't be for sale. We got prophets that are motivated by profit. We're living in that day right now. There's a great falling away. I want to remind you that everybody says that time is winding up. But if you know the time is winding up, you start to position yourself to deal with the time. And you position yourself much like what Paul said. Paul had done that in Romans chapter 13. He said the night is far spent. That means the night is, much of its time's already gone. It's winding up. Like sands of the hourglass, so are the days of our life. It said the night is far spent, The day is at hand. You know, every day that you walk out of your front door, I love to say that you see just a little bit more of the book of Revelations coming to pass. What Big Mama said, what your Sunday school teacher, you start seeing it all become reality. The day is hand. Let us put on the Lord Jesus Christ. For now is our salvation nearer. Our deliverance is nearer than when we first believed. Look, folks, it's time to pull off the night clothes. God is coming back. Christ is coming back for a church without a spot or a wrinkle. But can we do that in this day where people are heaping themselves teachers because they have itching ears? There's somebody that's preaching whatever you want to hear, giving a webinar on whatever you want to hear, giving a podcast on whatever you want to hear, scoping on whatever you want to hear, catching on whatever you want to hear, blabbing on whatever you want to hear, or Facebook Live, or whatever you want to hear. We are heaping to ourselves teachers because we got itching ears. Look, folks, it ain't all about you. It's about those sheep. It's about those, what you do to the least of them. Look, in this day, where everybody is gone starstruck, where we got reality show preachers and talk show sermons, I want to tell you that holiness is still right. God is coming back after a church without a spot or a wrinkle. Just because there's a great falling away doesn't mean that you have to be part of it. My morning meditation is there's a great falling away, and I'm not choosing to fall with it. You have a decision before you. Will you be one that falls, or will you take a stand that stands for Christ? That eternity will kiss, that God will reward. Holiness is still right. God's coming back after a church without spot or wrinkle. You can't be so seeker sensitive and seeker oriented and be scared to preach the gospel because somebody might leave, that you violate the tenets. The tenets. That's what of the faith. We're starting to go against the tenets. It's different when we're talking about a far obscure precept, but we're starting to leave the tenets of the faith. Look, folks, God's coming back. Time is winding up. My prayer is that you don't participate in this great falling away. The day will come when God's going to flip the script, where the first will be last and the last will be first. My prayer is that you will be found desirable to God, that you'll be found living right, standing right, that your faithfulness will be rewarded. There's a great falling away, but don't you fall. God bless you.